Well, welcome to the program, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amarachi Ubani in Lagos. This just in, Democrats have drafted a single article of impeachment to file against President Donald Trump once the House of Representatives meets in a few hours. The resolution, drafted by 3 Democrats who began writing it while under lockdown in the U.S. Capitol last Wednesday, accuses Trump of incitement of insurrection. The resolution cites Trump's repeated unsubstantiated claims that he won the November vote, his speech in Washington on the day of the riot, and his plea with Georgia's top voting official to find more Republican votes even after the tally had been finalized. It says, in all this, President Trump gravely endangered the security of the United States and its institutions of government, and goes on to say he threatened the integrity of the democratic system, interfered with a peaceful transition of power, and imperiled a crucial branch of government. He threatened, thereby betrayed the trust as president to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Now, on Sunday, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Democrats plan a vote today to urge Vice President Mike Pence to take steps to remove the president from office after his supporters, as we remember, stormed the Capitol before attempting to impeach him again.
In calling for this seditious act, the President has committed an unspeakable assault on our nation and our people. I join the Senate Democratic leader in calling on the Vice President to remove this President by immediately invoking the 25th Amendment. If the Vice President and the Cabinet do not act, the Congress may be prepared to move forward with impeachment.
Another development in the aftermath of the riots at the Capitol building is the ban on President Trump's social media accounts, something that has caused some worry for German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Earlier today, she sent out a statement released by her spokesperson, Stefan Seibert, expressing concern about the move. She described the move as problematic because freedom of opinion should be determined by legislators, not tech bosses. She, however, said she was furious and saddened by the storming of the Capitol building last week and accused President Trump of stoking unrest by refusing to concede to Joe Biden. Platforms including Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, and more suspended accounts belonging to President Donald Trump. Let's talk to our Washington correspondent, Maria Bird, on the developments. Maria, we're just learning about this single article of impeachment to be filed against the president. Explain to us what goes on from here.
At this time, once this article is put forth, we are looking at potentially just a few days for votes to happen. But again, the first order is to see if there's any way possible that the vice president would invoke the 25th Amendment. And so, because that would be the quickest way to move forward. Now, the articles of impeachment will be voted on by the House, and then they will go on to the Senate. And at that time, they will then be able to move forward because they have charges, obviously, against President Trump, what they are saying was inciting the violence. And so that will kind of be the process moving forward. We'll probably see throughout the day beginning to get those votes moving forward. But there is speculation that potentially, even though the Speaker of the House has said she wants to move forward on this, that some Democrats might ask for this to wait until after the inauguration of Joe Biden, because they are fearful that this could potentially cause problems when the Biden administration comes into office and they're trying to move forward with many of their cabinet picks. And so there could still be articles of impeachment that are brought forth even after President Trump leaves office.
And another development from Wednesday, January 6th, this report, we're also learning about the FBI receiving more than 40,000 digital tips from the public. And I know that there is a countrywide search for the rioters. How easy will it be rounding up those who were there that day?
Well, at this time, we're beginning to see that there are quite a few that are being stopped. There's a no-fly list. And so when these individuals enter the airport, they are being stopped if they are trying to either fly home or fly somewhere else. And we've seen several of them actually being detained and arrested at airports. Many of them have already made flights on their way home, and we've seen those individuals being stopped as they exit planes and being arrested. And so they are doing an all hands on deck to ensure across the country that these individuals are stopped and are being arrested if they are obviously in public areas that they can be detained. So that is kind of the first bit that we're beginning to see of these individuals being taken into custody and actually being charged with the crimes that they have committed on last Wednesday.
And so the president's social media accounts have been suspended. German Chancellor Angela Merkel says this should be done by legislators. Freedom of opinion should be determined by legislators, she said, and not tech bosses. The platform which he normally communicates with is Twitter and also his other social media accounts. Now that he's not communicating through any of these channels, what are his plans over the coming days? Do we know before the inauguration?
Well, the greatest question I think at this time is going to be, is there any additional protests that he could be working alongside any of these individuals that came out, to protest last week? And so is he doing anything behind the scenes to create any further risk to the general public, which I think is really what you're hearing Congress saying, is that he is a danger to the American people and to the American democracy. So that's the real question at this time, is he doing anything behind the scenes that people are not aware of that could bring forth any type of challenges come January 20th. We are aware that he has stated that he will not be attending the inauguration, but he has stated that he will leave the White House. But it's very clear that he is not happy with the results of this election and is not happy to see that in just a few days, his end to his presidency could be forever.
Maria, just speaking about that, you talked about whether he is not working behind the scenes. There have been reports, and I'm aware, reports that there might be another protest, such as the one we've seen at the Capitol building, might be another protest before Inauguration Day.
That is what we're hearing, that there could be another. They've obviously put up, put armed forces down by the Capitol building. They have put up fencing to surround the Capitol for extra security measures. They are, receiving, as you said, there's information that there could be a protest in the coming days. And obviously, there was definitely that we have seen evidence of a planned protest for January the 20th. But we're hopeful that over the next couple of days, that anything that was planned prior to January 20th could be stopped. And so they're putting forth, obviously, various measures to be able to ensure that the Capitol is protected and that the various national monuments across the U.S., but specifically in Washington, are also being protected.
Maria, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
In the meantime, the President-elect Joe Biden has continued naming his cabinets, nominating William Burns, who served for 3 decades as a diplomat, to be his CIA director. Mr. Burns led the Obama administration's negotiations with Iran to reach a landmark nuclear deal in 2015. Before that, he served as ambassador to Russia. He's currently the president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and international think tank. If confirmed by the Senate, he would be the first career diplomat in the post. The president-elect, who takes office on January 20th, has asked Congress to confirm his national security team as close to his inauguration as possible. Let's check in on the Indonesian plane crash, as authorities say they will intensify search for victims from the Sriwijaya air crash and send in a remotely operated underwater vehicle to search for the jet's cockpit recorders in the sea. Divers scoured the Boeing 737-500 plane with 62 people on board, plunged into the Java Sea on Saturday, January 9th, just minutes after taking off from Jakarta's main airport. Divers scoured the seabed on Monday, retrieving human remains, personal possessions, and pieces of plane wreckage until fading light ended the search. The search team had narrowed down the suspected location of the black box flight recorders, and the remotely controlled vehicle would help scan the seabed. Once the flight data and cockpit voice recorders are found, the KNKT expects to be able to read the information within 3 days. German company BioNTech, which is working with U.S. drug firm Pfizer to create the first coronavirus vaccine approved in the UK, the US, and in Europe, said it expects to produce 2 billion doses this year. The company made this known in a presentation today. Now, the new figure includes updated guidance that 6 doses can be extracted from each vial of the coronavirus vaccine rather than the 5 doses originally stated on the labeling. Here's a global update. Beginning in Britain, where Prime Minister Boris Johnson visited a vaccination centre at Ashton Gate Football Ground in Bristol. He said about 2 million people have been vaccinated across the UK with a second booster jab, meaning 2.4 million jabs have been administered in total. He also talked about the UK setting up 50 mass vaccination centres across the country.
What we're doing here in Bristol today is launching the first of the mass vaccination centres. We'll have 50 of these by the end of the month. That's in addition to the 233 hospital sites, the 1,000 plus GP sites, and a first go of about 200 community pharmacies, and we'll be ramping them all up.
And in South Africa, a government-run hospital in the capital has moved patients to a parking lot as COVID-19 cases surge. The Steve Biko Academic Hospital in Pretoria saw patients receiving oxygen on the tarmac outside the entrance to the hospital's emergency department. The facility's chief executive says treating patients outside the main hospital building was a decision taken because of a disaster scenario the hospital was facing due to a sudden surge in patients. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization expert team is expected to arrive in China on Thursday on a tour tracing the origin of COVID-19, according to the Global Health Agency. Deputy head of China's National Health Commission told a press conference on Saturday that China is ready to receive the expert team, adding that experts are looking forward to working together with their WHO colleagues. Meanwhile, mainland China saw its biggest daily increase in COVID-19 cases in over 5 months, reporting 82 of the 85 new local infections in Hubei province. Finally, Indonesia's Food and Drug Agency has granted emergency use approval to a COVID-19 vaccine developed by China's Sinovac Biotech, making it the first country outside China to give regulatory green light to the vaccine. The authorization came after interim data from a late-stage human trial in Indonesia showed the vaccine was 65.3% effective. Well, more on the coronavirus situation in the world, especially in Spain, where they've been experiencing terrible winter weather over the weekend. Plus, from grief to comfort, a Mexican seamstress fills in the void left by COVID-19 victims. Stay with us. Welcome back to The World. Today we've been talking about the impact of the coronavirus around the world, but things are especially difficult in Spain, which has been experiencing crazy winter weather all weekend and is now hampering the country's vaccine rollout.
Spain's military unit carried out an operation on Madrid's M40 highway to pull out stranded vehicles following the huge snowstorm that left cars trapped during the weekend. Up to 20 inches of snow fell on the capital, Madrid, one of the worst hit areas between Friday and Saturday. Overnight, temperatures plunged to minus 8 degrees Celsius in parts of Spain, amid warning by meteorologists that snow was turning to perilous ice. Residents have also been helping police open paths through deep banks of snow using plywood boards or trays, and they poured salt on the underlying ice. While many enjoyed the rare snowfall, skiing right at the heart of the city and holding mass snowball fights, a cold spell was set to turn the snow into slippery ice this week, and authorities rushed to clear more streets. The government says it's taking extra measures, including police-escorted convoys, to ensure its expected shipment of some 300,000 coronavirus vaccines can be distributed as planned to regional health authorities later today. But the huge snowstorm is already complicating efforts to distribute Moderna vaccines from facilities in Madrid. Moderna incorporated COVID-19 vaccine, fresh off European approval on Wednesday, must make a long continent-crossing journey from the Swiss Alps to Spain, France and Belgium before final delivery to EU's 27 countries. Meanwhile, a new batch of Pfizer coronavirus vaccines have arrived in the country today to continue its campaign. The recently arrived doses are to be distributed to all regions in Spain.
Global aid groups and ordinary Yemenis have expressed concerns that the U.S. plan to blacklist Yemen's Houthi movement will only heap more misery on a country blighted by death, disease and poverty due to war. The majority of the population lives in northern Yemen, which is under the control of the Iran-aligned group, which Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says will be designed as a foreign terrorist organization. The United Nations says Yemen is the world's largest humanitarian crisis and has warned that the long-impoverished Arabian Peninsula nation is in imminent danger of the worst famine the world has seen for decades. Recent UN data show that pockets of famine-like conditions have reappeared for the first time in 2 years, and almost half the population is experiencing high levels of food insecurity as COVID-19, reduced remittances and underfunding of the 2020 aid response exacerbates matters.
For Yemen and the next steps, I'm scared for my friends and colleagues in Yemen because the country is going to enter an even more difficult chapter. Under the best case scenario now, President-elect Biden will come in and on day one, hour one, minute one, revoke these designations. Even under that scenario, the message will have been sent out to the businesses and banks working with Yemeni companies and Yemeni markets all over the world, and it will spook them. And Yemen's markets can't afford to be spooked.
The fourth edition of the One Planet Summit has taken place in Paris today, with the head of the African Union, Moussa Faki Mahamat, and the United Kingdom's Prince Charles addressing the meeting. In a fight to better protect the planet's biodiversity, Mr. Mahamat says the Green Wall Project, Great Green Wall Project that is, which aims to replant trees and stop desertification in Africa, still needs to be properly funded. The project to plant a wall of trees in the Sahel is meant to help slow down and reverse effects of desertification, as well as create jobs and improve food security. The Great Green Wall Project was launched by the African Union back in 2007. Ugandans are heading to the polls on Thursday to vote in a presidential election that's pitting longtime leader Yoweri Museveni against 10 candidates, including opposition leader Bobi Wine, a singer-turned-lawmaker. In the run-up to January 14th, scores of opposition protesters have been killed during a campaign scarred by crackdowns on opposition rallies, which authorities say contravene curbs on gatherings to stop the spread of COVID-19.
Amid fears the presidential and legislative elections on January 14 could descend into violence, military personnel have been deployed across the capital Kampala to reinforce the police with columns of soldiers patrolling suburbs. At the age of 38, Bobi Wine is half of Museveni's age, and the singer, known for catchy protest songs, has attracted a large following amongst younger people in the East African country, where 80% of the population are under 30 and two-thirds unemployed.
He inspired me to work hard and study so that I can excel. And I think in the future, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is going to change many lives of Ugandans plus Africans at large.
President Yoweri Museveni seized power in 1986 and has won every election since the first under his presidency in 1996, though they have been tarnished by the intimidation of opposition candidates as well as accusations of vote rigging. In campaigns, the 76-year-old trumpets his achievements in energy and transport, such as building hydropower dams, roads, and driving industrial expansion. His supporters agree with him.
President Museveni has accomplished a lot of things. He's built roads and schools. Even this COVID-19 disease, people think that it does not exist, but President Museveni has tried to control it, and that is why we are doing well with containing it. I can assure you that President Museveni will win in Kampala.
Uganda's parliament, which is dominated by Museveni's National Resistance Movement, has twice changed the constitution to allow him to run, first removing a two-term limit in 2005 and then abolishing the age limit of 75 in 2017. Analysts say rampant unemployment, slowing economic growth, and surging public debt have fueled youth disaffection with Museveni's government, but Bobi Wine is tapping into that quite effectively.
But clearly there is quite a lot of youthful discontent, which he's tapping into quite effectively, and it seems to be rattling the Museveni regime, if you judge by the kind of overreaction to his candidature, which is probably the most extreme reaction there's been to any opposition candidate in Ugandan politics.
Wine, who grew up in Kampala's slum and whose real name is Robert Yagulanyi, has pledged to create 5 million jobs and rein graft that he says has drained resources that could be invested in public services and revive growth in a country of 46 million people. Since campaigning began in November, security forces have repeatedly broken up Wine's rallies with tear gas, rubber bullets, beatings and detentions. Wine has been arrested multiple times and now campaigns in a helmet and flak jacket.
Finally, on the program, let's meet Mexican Erendira Guerrero, who makes teddy bears for the family and friends of COVID-19 victims in order to console them. From her workshop at the northern border city of Ciudad Juarez in Mexico, she gathers old clothes from loved ones and stitches together the teddy bears to help people cope with losing loved ones during the pandemic. Each bear carries a message of love written on labels as a memory and addressed to the family members. Guerrero started to make the bears in March 2020. Residents in Ciudad Juarez on the border with Texas have lost thousands of loved ones due to the high rates of COVID-19. But the country on Saturday reported a record 16,105 new confirmed coronavirus cases, along with 1,135 additional fatalities. Every little helps along the way. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.